Okay, today's video, we're going to tell you here how to actually use what they call multi-step forms, or basically a contact form that if you're using a contact form, on your contact us page or whatever, how you can use that with a multi-step process. When you enter in one or two fields or pieces of information, name and email, and you press enter and multiple others pop up to get the information you want, fundamentally how you're going to be able to use that for sure to get more conversions, how I specifically do it. But more importantly, I'm going to go over using that same type of technology, the multi-step form process, for businesses that sell a product, a visual product, or you have a new concept you're trying to sell, or you sell financial services, you have any kind of services, how you're going to be able to use that multi-step form to be able to get upwards of 300% plus really more sales on the same exact PPC traffic that you have, just by integrating this multi-step form process that I have and the language in your ad to get way more sales out of what you're doing right now, and just by introducing this multi-step form quote-unquote process. So on today's video, I'll tell you what that process is, how to use it, how it works, how to get results, what kind of results you can see, all in the same video, enough for you to walk away from the video and have a working strategy to put in place for your business right now, as long as you're in one of the main categories where this will work. It won't work for absolutely everybody, but pretty close. Okay, so I'll give you several examples of different types of businesses where it's used and a couple different variations. And then hopefully you could twist that for your own business's needs, figuring out the way that you're going to do it for there. So anyway, with that said, I'm going to get started here by saying multi-step forms are basically, again, the form, you have a contact form, instead of having all the fields right there, and then, field, name, email, phone number, address, and then submit. You do name, email, and then you click submit. There's a submit button, and then right away pops up, address on after you've hit submit the first time, and then that, basically, so that you're not giving all the information that request. You aren't requesting all the information from the user at once. People that do use these, which are so powerful, and for some reason I don't know why they aren't used more, because they basically, like I was hinting or saying before, it works to get you more conversions every single time for the way that they're traditionally used anyway, which is on a standard contact form you have to get it more response from it. But they think most people, so there's few people that actually do know and use them, and I basically know why, because they think it's hard to do. But also a lot of people don't do it, so it hasn't caught on, therefore other people don't think they need to do it. But these are definitely for more than just what you can do to increase conversion rates on a regular contact form that you have, or a form that get, any other form on your site. These multi-step forms can be, and process, if you want to call it that, can give you, it can be much greater than that, than just using it on your form. It could be the whole funnel for your business, basically all together. So in other words, what I'm talking about, or going to get into on this video today, is how to actually plan your entire sales funnel around the multi-step form process, so that you can engage users at a much higher rate and ultimately end up with 300% more sales, or more sales leads that lead to sales. Same thing, because the lead quality is going to be the same either way, by using a multi-step form. Okay, so it's really as simple as that. It's no catch. You follow these strategies, you will get an increase. So basically speaking here, if you're for e-commerce companies, this doesn't apply so much, obviously, because you don't have traditional where you're selling a $20 broom. We'll just say people aren't going to need too much information to buy that broom. Okay, anybody selling something over $100, this will work. Why? Because it's really good at giving somebody who needs a bigger push to get to where they're confident about buying your product. It does that. It gets them over that gap that you need to bridge that gap that you need to fill really, really well. For anybody doing services, it also works good because people fundamentally want to know what is the price that you're charging before they contact you. And so if you tell people that by filling out this form process, multi-step form, that you'll get an idea what the price is before having to get bugged by a salesperson or call or whatnot, you'll get a lot more people to respond. And I'll tell you how you can parlay that into a real lead anyway. So basically, the idea being if you can get them to just take one extra step forward, just maybe I'll figure out what the price is, you could turn that into a hot lead and sell them anyway. And because you got more contacts, you're going to sell more. Anyway, I'll get into this a little bit more about how all this works. But in general, for the multi-step form as it exists, I mentioned fundamentally what people refer to as multi-step forms. There's 3 main methods that I use as being a PPC expert and managing, a few dozen PPC campaigns at a time here at our guaranteed PPC firm. The first method is the traditional one that I already spoke of, that everybody, 90% plus, are even thinking about, 95% plus, which is you have a website, you have a contact form there, you want to have more information because you're trying to weed out some of the leads. You want to know maybe what is your budget or whatever. And so instead of just name, email, which by the way, by default, that's what I'm doing because you got to know the more fields that you add to your contact form, the less your conversion rate and compliance rate to fill that out is going to be. So if you want to weed them out, you will definitely be able to do that. But if you're thinking you're going to get free extra information, forget about it. The more you ask for it, the less you're going to get. And there was a study that was conducted that actually, where they asked people if they, what would they basically, what would you rather do? Would you fill out a contact form or this? And ask them a series of questions. And through that process, they figured out that people would be more likely to clean a toilet than fill out a contact form. Because why? Because you got to think about a lot of people aren't 25 years old. They don't know how to type well. They type like this. And if you're filling out a contact form that has 5 fields, even if you type well, you don't want to do it because it looks daunting. And people have low attention spans online nowadays. But if you're typing like this, you definitely don't want to do it. So you better pump up the demand for what you're going to give them by filling it out, other than you'll talk to somebody and the idea is you're not even going to get to talk to them for 2 days, so screw it, I'm not going to do it. You take those, but you ultimately, back to the topic at hand here, you have the contact form, you have more than one field, you can actually increase your conversion rate by having it broken into multiple steps. And when I say multiple steps, you can increase the conversion rates of people who fill out the contact form that actually get to it by 10 to 100% somewhere, even when you have only more than 2 fields by itself. So in other words, your maximum conversion rate would be 2 fields only, name, email basically, or name, phone number if you want to put it that way. If you add name, phone number, and email, you're going to get less. If you name, phone number, email, and address, you're going to get less in terms of the response rate. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you switch to a multi-step form process, you're going to earn you closer to 100% if you're dealing with a form that has like 8 fields, let's say, 8 or more, versus if you're going from, if you have a form with 3 fields and use a multi-step form to break it up so that the first 2 are asked first and then you ask the third one after they've clicked submit already, you'll actually get closer to the 10% increase in conversion rates through having a multi-step process. So it gives you perspective if you want to do it. Makes sense to basically always do it unless you can go to less fields in general anyway, and then use the process. Figure out how to sort the leads better on the back end. But in general, that's how it works. And yes, I understand it from the consumer side. It pisses them off a little bit because they're like, okay, I'm going to get a free quote. Fill it in. oh, more questions. Because right away they're thinking, if I fill this out, it's going to be even more questions. People have caught on to this stuff. But the idea is there's a consistency principle that people, in terms of user psychology, that when people start something, they don't want to quit it. So even though they may not like seeing more information popped up, because they filled out some information already, they're not likely to not finish, okay, respectively. Now, a lot of people won't finish, I get that. And the more steps you have, the less likely they are to finish. But in general, when you compare 8 fields to 2 fields, and then 2 more, and then 2 more, and then 2 more, all the time, respectively, you can consider it a law that you're going to end up with more overall people filling it out and giving you all the same information if you break it up into steps. How you break it into steps, if you want to do 2 steps versus 3 steps, if you have 8 fields, or 4 steps, that stuff isn't so sure. I would definitely test it multiple ways there. And then the other small tip about that is somebody fills out the first step, name and email, make sure you capture that information so that if they don't get all the way through and they do the thing like I said, where they'll like, piss, screw it, I'm not going to fill out your step 2. You've at least got their information and you can contact them anyway. And this is what I tell people. A lot of times clients will come to me and they'll say, Corey, I want to know what their budget is. And I'll tell them, you'll get half as many leads if you try to ask them for their budget and how many people they need this for and that for, and qualify them through the lead. And then, so what we'll do is just make sure that if they fill out if you'll fill out the first part of the form, they work that lead. Because if you don't work that lead and you're hungry for more leads and you're not satisfied with the profit, or we're looking at ways to scale, you should basically put. So that's a good middle ground too. So there's no actual drawback then to having, there's no drawback to having the multi-step form anyway if you have lots of fields, actually more than 2. But what I should say is you'll actually maximize the amount of profit you'll make even more if you just get the first 2, try to get the rest of the information, but you work the lead even if they fill out the first 2 fields in the first step of the multi-step form process itself. Okay, so that's just also some other basic information about these multi-step forms. Now, I should have touched on this a bit before, but when you do use these multi-step forms, your quote-unquote process doesn't have to be that intelligent. There's no advanced coding to do multi-step forms. It's 2022 now. I use the landing page tool Unbounce, and a lot of the other landing page tools like ClickFunnels and so forth, they have multi-step form functions built in within the interface. And so you need to know no programming at all. You can have any form you have be a multi-step form, and it's just a few clicks and you're done, which leaves no reason why not to use that if you are using a landing page tool. If you're using a regular HTML site, it's harder, but even that, there's so many different, like for WordPress, there's certain plugins that you can use that and get it done. And even if you don't have a CMS and you're just using plain HTML by itself, and you're going to code one in, well, there's so many JavaScripts and stuff out there where you can just cut and paste. That's not that hard to do either. So there's really no excuse. I'm just saying, in general, and if you're doing PPC, by the way, you should use a landing page tool. Why? Because if you watch my other videos, you'll see me harp on, you can't use one landing page for everybody if you're going to make big bucks. You want to have multiple landing pages so you can cater to different people who type in different keywords or different offers. If you're running display campaigns, you'll make way more money that way. And if you need to quickly copy and paste landing pages, it's the easiest, respectively, or easy to do in these page builders. But also, if you have 200 pages, first of all, you don't want to have that on your main site. They can find the main site from your landing page, but they don't go vice versa. But it won't muddy up when you go inside your content management system, you log in, and all those pages there for your PPC are there. They might get accidentally deleted. Once your PPC campaign's working, you've got it scaled up to 50,000 a month eventually. And if you do the stuff on my channel, you can, one step at a time. You don't want anybody screwing with those pages. You want it locked in, and if you got a key behind just those landing pages, Otherwise, if they get screwed with, you can lose $1,000 a day and may not even know anything about it until, because somebody will do something on the site that then breaks your pages that are using for your PPC campaign. You should isolate it, basically. Unbounce is the best tool. Yes, it's expensive, but it's the best. You're not going to have any problems with it ever. If you use these other tools, it won't, who knows? So that said, that's the traditional use, okay? And I gave you the tips to do it. You can use that by itself. But what this video primarily is for here is about using this process that's going to get you the 300% returns, okay? So the second instance where I use the multi-step process is you'll have a landing page and you'll have, let's say you're offering a product that's a couple $100, right? So people need more information than usual to buy it. I'll use on my landing page here that I have an Unbounce or whatever, and I'll go through and just explain at a high level what the product is, and then I'll say, configure your product, or find out how much the product costs as a call to action button at the bottom of that page. Because after they get to the high level, then it's like, oh, it's interesting. If they're not ready to buy now, they leave, and you're likely not going to get them back even if you try to remarket to them or whatever. But at the end of the basic overview, you have a configurator where they can go and see different options, because that's actually entertaining now. You're not asking them to do as much if you're asking them to configure, because it's fun. Or you kind of just want to know, if you don't have the price per se listed on the product itself because it's a custom product, you can go to a configurator, and it's also fun for them to kind of see the product might look like as well, but also just roughly see what it's going to cost. Because I like it, but I don't want to talk to a salesperson, but I would like to kind of see what it's priced. And in the process, I can see the options that come with this, so I understand better what it is, and I'll win two different ways here. So then they click that button, and then you take them to a dedicated page that's says start the process, and it asks, are you looking for a metal or a wood or whatever, a high level question that anybody can answer. It's got to be so simple and so straightforward that 100% of people know exactly what you're asking for and can answer it within 2 seconds. Because you got to have that so they don't leave. Because if it looks difficult to do, they're going to leave, which is why on your forms, when you have multiple fields there, people abandon it. If it looks hard and time-consuming, they don't want to do it. The easier it looks, the more they'll do it. And like I said before, the more you get to do the first thing, even if it's just one single thing that they did, wood or metal, when they get to the second step, even if that's a little bit more difficult, they're way, 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 way more likely to do it once they've already completed the first step. So your goal in the first step is just to get them to click through it so that they can get to the second step. And what you want to do actually along those lines is order things so that the easiest thing to answer is first, the second easiest thing to answer is the second, and wait till the end to ask them the more difficult stuff. But now to do this, respectively, you don't need a complicated system. What you can have is just a page, wood or metal. And you can show an image of what the wood versus the metal one kind of looks like. They click next. Would you like the large, medium, or small? And you show a picture of each. Respectively, if they clicked wood, you could, if you have an intelligent system, it will work better. You could have the wood one in medium, small, or large. Now that in itself, when I say what you have doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't. We're getting the 300% and such or thereof increase in sales by not having it intelligent like that. So respectively, what I mean is, when they like from the example I gave, if it's a mailbox, we'll just assume that we're talking about a mailbox that they're buying here. Do you want a wood mailbox or a metal mailbox? They click wood. The second step they go to, which is another page refresh, or basically it goes to the side, and then another question comes up and it says, do you want small, medium, or large? The small, medium, and large, if they chose wood before, doesn't have to show pictures of wood products. You can do that, like I said, and it'll work a little better, but you'll get almost the same return even if you just show them what small, medium, large looks like. So it can be a stupid engine if you want, or stupid process where all it's doing is asking them 5 or 6 questions showing them the kind of options there that are available to get them excited about buying it. And then at the end, you can shoot out a general price, because it's easy to figure out what the price would be if you don't, and have a table that would work with it. If, basically speaking, you only have 5 or 6 options, you can, you have 25 end results that you could have, and just have 25 different prices for the different kind of combinations there. And that's pretty much all you need. At the very end, for a product like that, we're asking to have their email address before they get the price, so that we can at least email them. That's optional. You can test it with or without that, but that's what you do. So the questions aren't meant to be hard. It's meant to engage you so that you can get the user's contact information at the end, and then with the contact information, you could work the lead. And if you work your leads, and you actually do have to work your leads, you'll end up with a lot more sales at the end of the day than if the person just looked at it, that's nice, and then they left. You got them. First of all, the more engaged and the longer they stay on your site, the more statistically likely they are to purchase. This is a way to keep them on the site on the longer and get them more engaged, so that the time on site racks up longer, they're more likely to buy. Then you're getting an increase in your sales if you ask for information at the end of the process, because they've actually spent time to answer all your 5 or 6 questions, which wasn't laborious to them or boring, because you were actually showing them the different options that are available with your product. At the end of the process, before you spit out the quote, you can ask them for their information. You'll be surprised how many people will do that. We're talking over 50%. If you get sometimes we'll ask for the phone number as well. A lot of times we ask for the phone number. And so when you get the phone number, now you've got a lead that you can work, and maybe they don't want to buy today, and that's fine, but you just call them up and you say, hey, if you have any questions, I'm Mike, I'm the product specialist for the product that you were looking at, let me know. And then if they say, no, I'm not interested now, call them back in 6 months. Create a CRM, track those leads. When you call them back in 6 months, if they're still not ready, call them back in another 6 months. You build up a database of people who are interested in the product. When you're talking about hundreds or thousands of dollars for a product, there's people that will buy years later. And if you follow up, you're going to have twice as many sales than you otherwise. So, respectively, that's the process in a nutshell, versus just showing a fairly halfway expensive product, and then you could say this is the price in general. You take them through to get the price. You go through a configurator. You'll make a lot more sales, because that gets the person involved in the process more, and you can contact them, like I said. You should definitely try that. If you're selling a product like anything for sure that's a new concept, you want to do that, because it's a little hard for people to take all that information in. A process like this explains very well what, once you've got over a high level of what you've done, what the product is really about a little bit more at a higher level, and in a fun way that's not too hard to do. If you have a customizable product, this works very, very well as well, because obviously if it's customizable, you can't give them a price, but you can give them a price after this, and you just have, like 25 different prices that basically could be spit out based upon which of the 6, how they answered the 6 questions. Okay, so we did this. So I mentioned mailbox. I did this for a company that sold mailboxes. Between having the mailboxes there with just a price, to switching over to this system and getting their phone number and their email address at the end of the process, the increase in sales was 361% more per dollar spent on ads. So with that said, and they didn't do heavy follow-up either on top of that. Most companies I try to get to do heavy follow-up, they don't do it. As I mentioned a minute ago, you should do that if you want the most sales. They contacted the buyer once, and if they didn't want it, that was pretty much it. But they had the information to contact them afterwards. When they're done with this process, the reason why you should ask them for their information is, we want to send you your end result quote to your email. What's your email? What's your phone number? And then they click submit, and then it shows, you don't have it where they have to check their email to see the quote. they should be able to see the quote, but they have to enter their email and phone first so that you can send them a copy through their email. We want to send you a copy of the quote. Where can we send it to? And then after that, then they see the price of what options that for the product, given the options that they chose. You send them an email with the quote. Now you can follow up with them an email saying, hey, like the whole thing I said before, hey, I'm John. If you need anything, I'm happy to answer any other questions. And you call them once. But just calling them once and emailing them once with that general process there, instead of telling them the price, getting them involved in this process, you can get a 300% or so increase like we did just by adding that whole additional engagement process to trying to explain everything on just one page, and instead physically taking them through part of the learning process. And it's almost like a choose your own adventure. What are you interested in this or this? Do you like this or do you like this? Then eventually you've got them committed enough to give you their information, where on their own, if you just ask for their information, you're not getting it at a very high rate at all, like way less. And even though the leads you get aren't going to convert at a high rate, given that you have the leads, now you have an ability, so on that call or on that email, you will actually start selling some or more than you have. And the main thing is when you add in what you can do on the follow-up there versus the people that contact you on their own that don't go through that process, you're talking about the 300% increase, where a lot of it comes from there, okay? Given you have their contact information and now they're a little bit more involved in the process, and you actually got a way to contact them right after. I'll talk to you about how to contact them as well. So, basically you get their email or phone number at the end of the process, you should immediately respond to them. When you get an email, I would have an auto response set up. That's just a small tip. Get a system that allows you to time not by the hour but by the minute. So 15 minutes after they fill out the quote, you send them the quote right away, but then you have what seems like a personalized email in plain text written that whole, hi, I'm Jim. I'm the mailbox product specialist here. If you have any questions about the product that you asked about, I'm here to answer any of those questions. Here's also my number. And then it looks like it actually is a personal number from a real person, so they start engaging. And then, of course, again, like I said, you can get their phone number as well. You'd be surprised how much, over half the time, they'll still give you their phone number if you ask for it at the end of the 4 or 5 steps or 6 steps. And then you can call them right away. And then the quicker you call, the better. There's actually systems that you can have where they fill out their phone number right away. The phone connects to the salesperson specifically, and allows them to have that, once it calls the salesman, have a voice message that plays when you pick up the phone saying, hey, somebody filled out the multi-step form process. Press 1 if you'd like to connect to the person who went through the process. And then basically you can get on the phone, hey, I'm Steve, I'm the mailbox product specialist. If you have any questions, blah, 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 blah. And then you can go, they'd say no, and you can say, I know you were interested in da-da-da-da-da, because obviously you can see what they submitted, have a way to pull that up on your computer. Now you got a way to talk to them. The software that you need to have the phone number automatically dial the salesperson, I actually wrote it down here. Ninja Bomb is one that I would recommend. There's quite a few. But essentially, the reason why you do that is because you don't want to rely on your salespeople to be able to call people right away. Given, the sooner after they fill out that process, being in a heightened engaged mode, having went through and chose all that stuff and really involved in the process, the less sales you're going to make. So you can make more sales by following up, and not letting them die. They say they're not going to buy now. You keep following up. That's one way to get, basically twice as many sales from your leads. But you also can double your sales basically if you call them right away versus waiting even a few hours, okay? So you don't want to rely on your salespeople to do it because they'll forget, sometimes they're lazy, whatever. Just have it automatically call the salesperson and make sure that the salesperson always has to answer that phone. Or if, basically, if that person's on a phone a lot, it's got to go to somebody else or what have you, and get a routing system. And that way, every single time, you're optimized for the maximum amount of people to buy right there on the spot that went through the process there, your multi-step process, and at least got enough rapport with them that they're going to come back and buy at a higher rate, which they will if you've had a conversation with them, because that's another step forward in terms of the level of engagement that you're going to have. It's one level of engagement going through the process itself. It's one level of engagement having a conversation with you physically. And each level that you get to, we're going to buy at a higher rate regardless. Sometimes they'll buy right away, but in general, overall, the people that come back are going to come back at a higher rate as well. So that's how that works. And basically speaking, typically I'm going to go customize and it's either customize your product now and get an instant quote on your customization, or it's just get an instant quote on the type, on our product as your call to action on the initial landing page that you take people to from your PPC ads, and then you go to your multi-step process page after that. But just in general, if you're wondering how to word the call to action or the button that goes on your initial landing page to get them to the multi-step process there. So anyway, that's a fantastic way to anything over $100, any product, to be able to sell 300+% more of it. And it doesn't have to be that hard at all, difficult at all to set that up. Any basic programmer could set that up in 10 hours, something like that. And then leave it at that. So the third option for these multi-step forms that you can make a lot of money with, get 300% or so return from, is if you're in a business, some service business, or you sell financial products thereof, you can have an ad on your search ad or whatnot. It could be display ad, display PPC ad. You say on your search ad or whatever, instant quote, 60 seconds, get an instant quote. And your other ads that are not there, they're not going to click on it at the higher rate, as high of rate, because what do people want? Yes, they got to be able to trust who they're dealing with, but what do they want if they're going to go ahead and search for your service anyway? They want to know how much it is. Generally, some people don't care, but a good half of them, more than anything, just want to know how much it is. They're getting several quotes even. So you're offering them an easier way to get the quote. Obviously, they're going to go for you first. They're going to have higher click-through rates then. You're going to have an 8% click-through rate versus the 4% click-through rate you had, which cuts your cost per click in half right away by itself. You get them to your site, and then right up at the top, you have a big headline, and then directly underneath that, you have a question that you ask them. It's like, how many people you need this for? How big is your event? Whatever. And then a submit button once they fill out that little field that asks them the initial question. And then you have, right away pops up another question and then another question or whatever. I'm sure you've seen these things before. And then at the end, you have to put in just like before, your contact information to be able to find out how much the quote is, okay? So some people won't put the contact information out in there at the very end, but a good half will still, which when you're talking about the type of conversion rates you're going to get without having the multi-step form on there and just hoping they call or just hoping they fill out the form fill, it's astronomically higher, because this process in itself is very seductive. First of all, they wondered, you got them in the mood to want to quote right away, and when you get to the site, they know you're not screwing around. They're going to be going through that process, and they're motivated to go through that process anyway. Even if your ad didn't say instant quote, and all you had was that multi-step form that says, like, how big an event are you doing? You're going to get a lot of people to fill that out. Or if it says, get an instant quote on the landing page, how many people that you have for your event, whatever, and then just there without instant quote being on the ad, you'll still get a ton of people fill that out, and you'll get an increase in your sales over just having a plain page with a phone number or a form to fill out to contact you. So I actually have done this quite a few times as well. I mentioned this can be done really for any service. I would like to try this for like a plumber. What's broken? Toilet, ... and see how much I can increase the conversion rates, versus having somebody just call and find out the quote that way. I 100% certain that we can do that. I just haven't gotten to the situation where we actually set that up, and it's these aren't my companies that we're running the ads for, so got to get some permission for the client to do something like that. If I was a plumber, that's what I would do personally, at least for what I know. But so when I say some services, it could be more services, really. I did this for a niche in the junk car space. So like if you have a junk car, you need to sell it, you want to get money for it, you can't necessarily take that to the dealership because it's too crappy, whatever, most of the time, or theoretically. Instead of having a landing page, you're taking people to a page which they know they want to sell their junk car, and you say that you buy junk cars. They get to the landing page. Instead of just saying, call us, what's the make of the junk car you're selling? Then what's the model? Then what's the year? And you tell them on the landing page before they fill out the first step, find out how much we'll pay for your car in 60 seconds. That's way more appealing than having, not being there and just having to call. Why? Because it seems easier and it's kind of fun. The other thing to keep in mind is if they call physically, they think that they may get hounded by a salesperson for a while because they'll keep calling back. Everybody has had that happen to them. And so they're thinking it always, all the time when they get to your page. You got to keep that in mind with the users, all these, past experiences that they've had that goes into, whether or not your page is going to convert. So that converted at 205% more than just having the phone number on the page by itself. That was a game changer for the amount of money that campaign worked in that space, given there's only so many people searching in a local market for that. And so respectively, for anything like that, I would, obviously I highly, highly recommend you do it. You can do it for unconventional services like a foundation repair company, whatever, and I almost guarantee that's going to work for that to get you maybe up to double, if not more, conversions or leads in sales that you're going to get without having that multi-step, the process where you're asking a question right away on your landing page up top. You'll have to try it out for yourself. Now, the other place where this works is the financial product space. So we're talking about loans, insurance, anything like that. I actually did this for an insurance company. So if you want an insurance product, it's the same thing. You kind of want to know what the price is. Everything comes to how much you're going to pay me or how much am I going to have to pay you in terms of top things that's going to get a person to respond at the highest rate possible. So in this case, for the junk cars case, it was how much I'm going to get paid, of course. In this case, it's the usual, how much is it going to cost me? The insurance that we were selling right away just find out it's the same typical thing I told you that you do time and time again. The ad takes them into a landing page that says they're going to get a quote in 60 seconds or roughly thereof. Instant quote. That's the type of language that works the best on the ad that I found. And then the question up top, just ask them, what is it that you need insured is the first question. That's your typical you want to, again, start with the easiest possible question that they know the answer of in like 1 millisecond, basically, so that they'll just get started. And once they get started, the likelihood that they're going to finish is 10 times higher. And you get them to go all the way through. So that compared to just having a landing page, even though on the landing pages for insurance and other financial spaces, we try to list what the ballpark prices are, because that's going to get a higher conversion rate than none at all. You actually have the instant quote form. It's way higher even yet. I can attest to that. In that particular case, we had a 448% increase in the conversion rate for that particular client where we did it. I can't give away the exact insurance specifically because it's such a specialized product that I'd give away the client, but huge, way more than these other ones. In the junk cars, 200 some percent, the mailbox, 300 some percent. Almost, so 400+% increase in sales by having that 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 step process there is actually what it was. Well, not just 3 steps, but about 5 steps there to get the person's information. And the to get the person's information. Now with this, and actually with all of them, like I said, you'll make more money out of this method here that I'm giving you if you contact the leads right away. That's the case for any leads you get. If somebody fills out a form, if you answer the form and call the person on the form within 15 minutes, you're getting the maximum amount of sales you're going to get from that form fill. If you didn't know that, that's absolutely the case all in itself. I mentioned that a bit ago, but respectively, you can guarantee you'll always respond right away. If you have a service like Ninja Bomb, you can Google it. When they're done with this process, right away, the salesperson gets a call and then it says they need to hit 1 to be able to get connected with the person who filled it out. And then that salesperson can have a portal where they right away know all the information that they needed a quote on and can start talking to them. Now, even if you can't give a quote, I know what you guys are thinking. I don't know what we can pay for the junk car. I don't know what the insurance is going to cost. I'm telling you here, the beauty about all of this is it doesn't matter. Because when they get to the end of the process, so with the mailboxes, it was easy because there was only so many different ways the mailbox could be sold. We could give a hard price. With these, they get to the end of the process. Yes, it's slightly misleading, but once they get to the end step where they have to enter their phone and email address to get the so-called quote that's promised to them in the ad, okay, that maximizes your profit from the whole thing, having it in the ad there, you want to say it in the ad there. It says, we are having an agent call you right now to give you the price. They will call you in 15 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever. And then you have that Ninja Bomb setups where you literally can do that. So you don't have to have an engine that can intelligently spit out the price. You don't need complicated coding. You just have to have an agent do it. Eventually, if you want to save money, you can have an engine do it once this thing is up and going. But to get started, or in general, you don't need one. We didn't use one in either one of these cases here, and we still got this kind of these numbers. And in fact, even if you do have an engine, there's no guarantee that's actually going to make more money. It's going to save the salesperson's time, but if they get the quote here, they're less likely to want to talk to the salesperson in general, right? If they call, because like I said with the mailbox example, we tried to call them and say, hey, it's Mark with the product specialist that the mailbox product specialist that you're here at the company. If you have any questions, they may not engage. Whereas if you got to give them they got to talk to you for a little bit to engage. Now you have time. First of all, you got more time talking to them, which instantly means that because you've talked to them a little bit longer and more in general, they're going to convert it at a higher rate because the longer they engage with your company, the more likely they are to buy. That I told you that before. But respectively, they're going to have a higher level of engagement on the phone call itself with that person, because likely when you give the price, you're going to hear the feedback and you're going to talk about the price itself for a little while, which is going to extend the call a little bit further and make it even more likely that that person's going to buy something. So you don't even have to do the pricing at all if you don't want to. You get to a big company, you can start to automate some of this stuff and do things like once the price is spit out, it can say, do you want somebody to contact you and stuff like that. But pretty much I find that completely unnecessary. What you need to do is you spit out the price and you have the phone system connect with the salesperson. You just call them right away. And whether they ask for it or not, you try to engage with that person as much as you can over the phone. You send them an email that's timed to show up for them again, 15 or so minutes after they went through the process, so that basically if they don't answering their phone, maybe you get them going and talking to the email. Maybe they saw the email, but they didn't see your phone call right away, and now they'll call because your phone number is on the email that you sent them. So anyway, you don't need an advanced coding. You don't have to have a real price spit out. What you're doing is you're turning desire for a price that they wanted to get, and their burning desire to have that price as quickly and easily as possible into increased leads, which turns into increased sales. and you're not technically lying to them because you're saying 60 seconds you'll get a quote. You fill out the form, you're getting a call right away. You just figured out a smart way to be able to get them a quote right away without having to have an advanced website that can pump out a price dynamically. And you win, long story short. So anyway, that is everything in a nutshell in regards to this whole strategy that I gave you, the multi-step forms. There's multiple ways, again, like you can make money. I recommend using as many as possible. The forms, do those in multi-step. And there's no reason why you can't use a form on your site. And actually, to be specific about that, you want a regular phone number and a regular contact form. The form can be a multi-step form. And then you have your multi-step form that they can go through too as a secondary way to engage with you. Some people will just want to call. Some people will just want to fill out your multi-step form that asks them a question right off the bat, whether you're giving them a quote over the phone or you're showing them what the product customized their way is going to ultimately be priced at. And so you don't, some people go one way, some people go another. And on your form, you can use a multi-step form to increase your conversion rates on top of what you got. And then also you can get a boost by using a multi-step form to give the person a so-called instant quote, which is powered by a back-end phone system that's hooked up to a service like Ninja Bomb that will automatically call the user, and a service like MailChimp that can send a what seems like a personalized email out to the user 15 or so minutes after they fill it out, and get people buying from you and engage that way as well. Make sure the email, by the way, it looks personal. I know I said that, but no, it has to look like it's just an email from Bob. Like you just all you did was composed it. You could do that with, Aweber, all these programs. One trick is you put the unsubscribe link, you hit return a bunch of times so it's down further on the page, you won't notice it. It's a little bit sleazy, or you could set up your phone system to through, there's ways to through Gmail have a plugin that will send a personalized email, a templated email, like a mail merge thing to people so it looks personalized and really looks 100% like it was custom sent to them, and do so it's not right away after they fill out the form so they know it's automated, but waits 15 minutes so it looks really real. So going a little extra step forward here on these individual things will make sure you get the full amount of profit from it. So further you go with it, the more you'll make. And doing something like following up each lead so that if they don't say no, you always put them into your system, your CRM, saying, we'll follow that person up until they actually tell me no. You can get another twice as many sales from the leads you have coming in as well, as I've talked about on other videos. As I call buy or die. If they don't say no, or if they don't say stop contacting me or F off, we're going to follow up 6 months later, 3 months later, until they do that. Because we never know, people's situations change all the time, and the reason why they come back 2 years from now to buy sometimes when you have a branded product or branded service that they want is because their situation changes and now they're ready. And if you follow them up, they're not ready, but you follow them at the right time, that following them up when their situation was now changed got the sale when you wouldn't have got it otherwise if you didn't talk to them, because they weren't engaged enough to buy, or they just didn't think about buying, and you've put them in a situation where they had to make a decision right away, and because you're friendly and all that, they want to say yes to you on the phone, and you were nice to follow up, and you genuinely, when you follow up, seem like you're trying to help. And that's what it is for. It's not about asking them if they want to buy again over and over. It's just, hey, this is Mark again. I was just curious, do you have any, maybe your situation has changed. If there's any other help, you need help deciding about what to do about your weight loss, situation that you're still trying to lose weight or whatever, and just try to get them talking. The longer you get them talking, the more likely they are to buy. That's just how it is. But anyway, I'll wrap it up with that. That's enough information for today. If you like this video, I have a ton of other videos on this channel about other PPC money-making strategies. You can check those out if you'd like. They're pretty good as well. I have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns pretty much the way that I guarantee to work and beat the competition in 99% of markets out there that I use for our clients at Guarantee PPC. You can find that information there if you are looking for information along those lines as well. I come back to this all my videos and answer all questions and comments on this channel. So if you have anything that you think I should have covered here, wasn't quite clear, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person, as said, that leaves me a comment here on this channel within a day or two time, typically myself, and will answer your question that you have. All that said, I'll wrap it all up. Hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you on my next video that I have coming out in another day or two with another great money-making PPC idea and strategy that you can do to make a little extra money on your campaigns even yet.